Thanks for checking out this video. So this is the 1975 installment of the 1970s horror movie Superlative series I'm doing with your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete. His channel is linked in the description for a specific reason. Watch all of this video, get my picks for 1975, then go over to his channel, watch his video with the same name, then come back to my channel, go to the community tab, and vote on who you liked most. Friendly competition. The winner actually does get something, though. They get to choose a movie for the other person to cover in their video style. So he won for the 80s, and I did the Amityville Horror, so that review is already up on my channel. I'm prepared for him to win again, which is totally fine, because I'm going to keep doing reviews anyway. But anyway, this has been fun. Thank you, everyone, for participating, especially giving your comments on our picks, but also subscribing to our channels, hitting the notification bell button, all that stuff. We really do appreciate it. And giving us your picks for each of these years. That's probably been the most fun aspect of this. So let me go ahead now and get into my 1975 picks. Most amazing film. This isn't going to be a big surprise to anyone, but it is a surprise to me that I don't own it already. Probably because I had only seen it once prior to rewatching it again after well over 10 years, I think, and that is Jaws. Everyone knows and loves Jaws for the most part. It's the quintessential shark movie, really. Spielberg did a phenomenal job. Cinematography, directing, all that stuff's amazing. The acting. From a technical standpoint, it's phenomenal. The pacing of that film is unbelievable, especially for a kind of like animal attack film, which a lot of animal attack films have a tendency to have not that great pacing, but Jaws. I mean, Jaws is probably the quintessential animal attack film. Unbelievably good. The shark looks amazing. The danger is so real in that film. The characters are rich. Their relationships feel real. It's just, you can't say enough about Jaws. And honestly, I'm just going to stop there because I actually am putting up, well, actually, when this video is coming out, I already have a review for Jaws on my channel. So that's in depth. That's a long review, though, because, hey, there's a lot to say about Jaws and break down about it. So yeah, my most amazing pick for 1975, obviously Jaws. Although I will say I did consider the Stepford Wives for that, but my buddy Rich was like, look, man, it's clearly Jaws. Rewatch Jaws. I did, and was like, oh yeah, it's Jaws. Anyway, next category, the best so bad it's good film. Now, this is a film that got the Riff Tracks treatment, which if people aren't familiar with it, I know I've said this before, it's the guys who did Mystery Science Theater 3000, but they're still doing that under the name Riff Tracks, so you can find them online. The giant spider invasion, and it is what it sounds like, gigantic spiders descending upon a town and eating people, destroying things. These spiders look horrible. This film, without Riff Tracks, is hilarious, in my opinion, and I found myself, when I saw the Riff Tracks version, just laughing at things that they weren't joking about, obviously also laughing at their jokes because they do a great job, but it's crazy. The acting is terrible. There's some really wacky characters in this. There's a character who's wearing, like, long johns for a good portion of it, and he has, like, butt crack sweat showing through. Like, it is something. Like I said, the spiders look awful, but it's so enjoyably funny. You can tell they just made these giant, like, crappy looking spiders and, like, put them on top of a car and then tried to shoot it so that you couldn't really see them moving. It's, ooh, it's wonderful. Like, in the mayhem that ensues with this film, it's just fun. It's just a insanely fun film, but I think nobody would say that it's actually well done. It is horrible, but it is amazing. So my pick for best so bad it's good film of 75 is The Giant Spider Invasion. Watch it with or without Riff Tracks. Actually, I'd say watch it without first and then watch it with the Riff Tracks, because they're two different experiences, but they're two amazing experiences. Now moving on to my most WTF film of 75, and that is David Cronenberg's Shivers. This film is weird, wacky, and has body horror to it because it's David Cronenberg, of course. Shivers basically about like these little parasite slug-looking things that get into people and pass usually when people are having sexual intercourse with each other. And these parasites are actually stimulating people to be more sexually active, to have more sexual desire. Now, it's obviously kind of like a take on STDs and STD spread. Um, Very well done film, actually, but it's wacky. It's very WTF, especially when there are these attack scenes with these slug parasite things, because they look weird, they look gross, they look crazy. There's one part in particular where one of them's kind of crawling up an old woman's leg who, like, I think she had a walker and she, like, fell down and it's, like, crawling up her leg. There's just a lot of WTF moments in this, especially, like, I want to say over sexuality, but the hypersexuality that happens in this film, which I'm sure turned a lot of people off at that time, and actually probably some people who would watch it nowadays. But Shivers gets my most WTF film of 1975, but it is good, and I recommend watching it. Now moving to the best gore, and this is the only one of my picks for 75 that I actually own it, and that is one of my favorite Giallo films, Deep Red. The kills in this are wonderful. I mean, it's Dario Argento, very well known for his brutality in kills and having plenty of gore. It's not on the same level gore-wise as something like Tenebre's final kill, which is probably my favorite Argento kill, but this has some great ones. Meat cleaver action that's awesome. Someone getting their mouth rammed into corners of things like a fireplace and a table. That's pretty crazy. Someone being dragged by a truck. That's crazy. And the quintessential kill at the very end that I don't want to say too much about, because if you haven't seen this, definitely see it. Involving an elevator. There's an elevator kill at the very end that's probably the best. I mean, it's the pièce de résistance as far as the kills in this film go. But amazing film, unbelievable. As I said, one of my favorite Giallo films. I'm not going to say anything about like what it's about. I mean, it's a Giallo film. It's about a black-gloved killer, and the mystery is who's the killer. So yeah, worth owning, definitely. Yes, this is the UK version, but I have a region-free player in my Xbox. Just so people know, Xbox will do region-free. But yeah, Deep Red is my pick for best gore for 75. Now moving on to the most unique, and I'm sure some people could guess what this was going to be. My most unique pick is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Obviously because it's a musical. It's an awesome horror musical. This is, on the tails of me talking about Phantom of the Paradise for 1974. Rocky Horror Picture Show, phenomenal musical, wonderful music, amazing pacing, fast paced. I don't want to say too much about it story-wise, just because it's worth experiencing if you haven't seen it. But Tim Curry does an amazing job. Meatloaf does an amazing job. Susan Sarandon does an amazing job. Everyone does an amazing job in this. And like I said, the music, it's so catchy. It's so good. But it's a horror musical that works on all the best levels. It has stuck with people. I mean, it was a big thing before horror musicals kind of came back with like Repo the Genetic Opera and stuff like that. Well, it didn't fully come back, but there were a few that after that. But it's had a cult following for a long time, and I think it's just kind of grown over time with good reason. It's wonderful. But all the queer aspects to this film is one of the other reasons it's so unique. Not a lot of queer film or queer positive film that's been made, especially in the 70s, if you just really think about that. So that's why it's my pick for most unique. It's the musical aspect and how well it's pulled off, and the queer aspect within it, which is wonderful. And it's endured. I love it. I kind of have a feeling at some point someone's going to do an update of the film, and I just don't know how that would be. I dread that. Anyway, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, my most unique pick for 75. Now my most overrated pick for 75 is George A. Romero's The Amusement Park. Now, obviously, it wasn't released in 1975, but on Letterboxd, which is what we're going off of in this series we're doing for release dates, it lists it as 1975 because that's when it was shot, and that's when it was given over to the people who paid for it. Now, the reason I say it's overrated is because it came to Shudder, was it just this year? I'm in a time warp. It may have been just in 2022. If it wasn't, it was in 2021. People online I saw just going crazy for it. Like, oh, this is so good. This is so great. It's a PSA film. It is literally a PSA film about aging and how you should treat old people better. Like, it's not really a Romero film in the sense of, like, it's scripted and done extremely well. Now, that said, As far as PSAs go, it's not really a straight up PSA either, because Romero did have to put his horror elements into it. And as a PSA goes, it's a way more entertaining PSA than any PSA I've ever seen, honestly. But as far as being a horror film, I think it's pretty boring, actually, and not that fun, and not that super well pulled off. But I think that's because of the parameters of what he was trying to hit. Like, I think this was literally like a church that paid him to do this. Um, so it was like an anti elder abuse video, basically. And he did it, and he delivered. It was for a paycheck, and you can kind of tell to a degree. But the fact that it's gotten so much love, I think, is more just because people were hungry for like unknown Romero. This was kind of like a lost film. So yeah, so that's why the Amusement Park is my pick for most overrated. Still, I mean, decent enough to watch. Now that brings me to my most underrated, and I am going to end up owning this at some point. I just watched it recently for the first time because it showed up on Shudder, and it is called The Devil's Reign. If you have not seen The Devil's Reign, you have got to see it. I've seen pretty much nobody talk about this film. It has Tom Skerritt, William Shatner, and Ernest Borgnine in it. Okay, interesting cast in the first place. It is about a small town that is basically being controlled by a satanic priest. Sound fun enough? Yeah, it's been done before. But have you seen a crazier start than this? And I'm not going to tip my hand as to what happens in this, but I was floored with how crazy things get immediately within this film. William Shatner is William Shatnering, basically, as you can always expect with any William Shatner. Ernest Borgnine is Ernest Borgnining, which is also fun. He's a little bit wacky and over the top, but the practical effects that went into this shocked me with how cool they were. The storyline gets pretty fun. It is wacky. It is awesome. And the finish to this movie, it involves rain, as the title says, The Devil's Reign. And I don't want to say it too much, but it involves a lot of blood. It involves melting, but the blood is green. And the scene is so crazy, and you're just like, man, this is cool, and this is great practical effects. But the scene is way longer than you expect it to be. A scene like that in a film like this from this time period is typically pretty short. They went all in at the end of this film, and it makes it. So I want to see more people watching The Devil's Reign. It is a delight. I know Svengoolie covered it very recently on his show because my parents watched Svengoolie, and I was like, look, he's doing The Devil's Reign. You have to watch this. They watched like the very beginning of it and were like, we're out. It's too crazy. It's too weird for us. Just saying. Anyway, that is my pick, The Devil's Reign, for most underrated. And those are all my picks. I am done with this 1975 video. So like I said, go and check out Uncle Pete's video. Or if you already have, just go ahead and comment on my video, comment on his video. Also subscribe to both our channels. Make sure you guys do that. And hit the notification bells for both our channels. And vote. Go to the community tab on my page or after you see Uncle Pete's video and vote on who you like for this one. Once again, thanks for everyone's participation. This has been great. And until next time, keep it brutal.